in Johannesburg, spent most of my life in Cape Town, went to school in South Africa, got an undergraduate degree from the University of Cape Town. I then worked in America for 2 years, working in a supermarket company in the United States. I started with an internship which turned into a job. And my father suggested I went to go and work for this particular company because they had just come out of US Chapter 11. And he said it would be a good idea to see how not to run a business. So that was for 2 years. And then I came back to South Africa, went to Australia for 2 years, where we opened the Pick n Pay hypermarket in Brisbane. Then, with all the political uncertainty in South Africa, we were forced to leave Australia and went back to South Africa in the mid-80s and worked in South Africa for many years in all different parts of the business, from our meat business to general management, and was the managing director of Pick n Pay. And then about the late 90s, I took a sabbatical, came to Oxford, did a lot of studying here, did a postgraduate diploma here, and have spent quite a lot of time lecturing at the Strategic Leadership Program. I'm an associate fellow at Green Templeton, and for many years I ran my own little corporate finance business. I also run our family office global investment business, and for the last 7 years I've been the chairman of Pick n Pay. I also am the co-chairman of the International Consumer Goods Forum and the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa, and I'm on the board of YPO International. So the retail industry has really started embracing technology back in the early 80s when they adopted the barcode. And once you adopt the barcode and the scanning system, everything has flown since then. So global retailing today is a highly sophisticated technological business because the entire supply chain operation is run technologically, right the way through to the point of sale and the way you do point of sale. And more recently, you've then had the add-on of the home shopping, the digital shopping, digital malls, all of those sort of things. And I think formal retail is adapting to it pretty well. The problem comes in how you compete with pure digital players such as Amazon, which have a totally different cost base and business operating model, and retailers learning to deal with that. The real challenge is towards the property industry, which is going to have to change because with the technology you don't need as big a retail stores as you used to. Consumers are using in many cases a store as a showroom, going in, having a look at product, then going and buying it online. So you as a retailer need to always be monitoring your pricing relative to online pricing to make sure the customer will then, particularly on higher priced products, that those products are competitively priced, say, to the online retailers. And then we're finding a huge development in the click and collect model where consumers are going back to the past. Because before supermarkets, you used to go to a little grocery store, go over the counter, give them your list, and they would give you what you wanted or send it to you on the bicycle. And it's just a digitalization of that process. So the challenge for retail is cost. And how can you compete against online, but also how can you get your cost structures down so you can offer your consumers that value and the offering digitally as opposed to in traditional bricks and mortar stores. I think the point is not how it can improve efficiency. I think every day, every retailer around the world is looking at re-engineering its business processes to be more efficient, because it's becoming a competitive advantage is your back end. So the more competitive you are in terms of reducing your supply chain costs, the more able you are to reduce your prices to your consumers and therefore become more price competitive in the marketplace. So it's that virtuous circle. I think some of the major problems for retailing in Africa, largely outside South Africa, is around the supply chain and logistics issues. So it's how do you get products quickly, efficiently into your stores without the long waited borders, without having to go through roadblocks, because it's all about the cold chain. It's about reducing your supply lines as quickly to as low as possible. You need to get a lot of local supply, so it all then comes around food quality, food security issues, hygiene issues, to make sure that you're giving your consumer the right quality products, but source it as close to your point of sale as you possibly can. The other factor, which is a real challenge for Africa, is around infrastructure, and with the growth in populations, it's things such as too much traffic on the road. So how do you get your trucks there? It's about electricity. Is there enough electricity to power your stores? Because as soon as you put generators in, your cost of electricity goes up hugely. It's about making sure you've got water, because in a lot of places you don't have running water, and you need running water to run a proper, efficient retail system. It's about having the right stores, the right car parks, but it's also about funding, and how the banking and financial services industry fund the property developers to put up the retail outlets. All of those are just some of the issues, but it's all about getting that back end right. The relatively easy part is actually putting your shelves up and putting products on your shelf. I think the issue around consumer goods is going to shape the future, because increasingly populations in Africa are connected to the world through smartphones, through internet, and they see products, and you get a huge amount of aspiration for particular products. And so the question is, how do you get that product to the consumer in an affordable fashion? The problem with doing that is you marginalize small local manufacturers, because they can't necessarily get the right quality or the right products to compete with the global multinationals. That's the one side of it. The other side of that is that the multinationals then tend to become the price formers in the marketplace. So they will set their pricing based largely on a global pricing model plus taxes and distribution cost. It gives an opportunity for local manufacturers to increase their pricing to just below the multinationals. So you do find increasing pressure on the consumer, because because the local guys are looking for the extra margin. So you do find a lot of inflation for the consumer. And you look at product, for example, in a country like Zimbabwe, where it's expensive because of import duties and all this stuff. So people, where they can, they cross the border and shop in neighboring countries and bring the stuff back. I think it's not even next, it's first, because I think you're starting to just see the start of formalized retailing outside South Africa. And the two major markets would be South Africa and Kenya, that East Africa area. But most of the other countries in Africa, let's say outside SADC and East Africa, are still pretty undeveloped in terms of formal retailing. And the first step is now to get them into formal retailing, which is happening at a fairly rapid rate. And then beyond that, you'll then just follow the trends that are happening elsewhere in the world. The advice I would give is to pick a niche, go for absolute excellence, and be the best you possibly can be. Because there are too many Me Too operators, particularly run around in Africa. And you see all these small little shops, and all of them try to mimic everybody else. So pick the niche, be the best, get your pricing as keen as you can be. Don't look at profit maximization. Look rather at how you can build your business and keep reinvesting into the business.